Welcome to Global TA, an 8-part technical analysis series basically built to help you build the skills that you need to trade in capital markets, not for the next couple of months, not for a quick fix, but rather for the rest of your lifetime. This is an essential skill, just like building a house. If you understand how to build a house, you can take shelter. And just like with technical analysis, you can trade in capital markets, essentially have the same exposure that the ultra high net worth individuals have had throughout all of history. Today, anyone can have. It doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what your name is, what ethnicity you are, what religion you are, what your interests are. None of these things matter. We're opening up to really an even playing field. And this is the beautiful thing about blockchain technology that I talk a lot about on this channel. It's essentially taking these centralized versions of things. So when you look at the New York Stock Exchange, you see all these pictures, guys in fancy suits and ties, and we're really taking what they have built. They've kind of had behind this closed door, and we're decentralizing it. We're opening it up to someone in Siberia. Someone who's not even heard of the NASDAQ. So this is, again, the beautiful thing about where we're moving to in the future. And really in this video, what I'm going to do is break down the frameworks and paradigms you need for the rest of the series. Like I said, this is an 8-part series. So the main thing here to understand is with technical analysis, a lot of people fall for these courses. So yes, there is always, in my opinion, value in education, and there is some value in paying for education. But the problem here that I see is people are charging thousands and thousands of dollars for technical analysis courses, when really what it comes down to is each person should build their own strategy with it. So in this course, it's going to be completely for free. So what most people would charge thousands of dollars for, I'm just going to basically put out completely for free. These are going to be extremely in-depth videos. This isn't going to be like a brief overview. Maybe if you watch just the first video, that's essentially an introduction to technical analysis, building support and resistance line, these very key fundamental things that even someone who is extremely advanced needs to go back and practice the fundamentals. Again, Michael Jordan practiced bounce passes every single day. It was crazy. Like all of his practices. He has a great biography, by the way. Go read that. And one of the things moving into this with the frameworks and paradigms, in my opinion, is you really should look at people who have gone through extremely hard times and use contrast bias to kind of help you move forward. So one of the things a lot of people do if they're paying for let's say even a college degree, or they're paying for any type of education where they want to learn a trade or a career. The main thing here is so many people get caught up when they essentially hit this roadblock. And this is what a lot of people call burnout. And I think one of the problems here is when this happens, you're so focused, you're so kind of tunnel visioned in this individual trade or whatever skill you're trying to build, that you can't zoom out and have the global perspective. That's kind of why I call this global TA, global technical analysis. Is really because the most important thing here is to use this inherent contrast bias that we all have. Charlie Munger lays out the 25 cognitive biases in his book, Poor Charlie's Almanac. And what's most important here is identifying these cognitive biases. That it doesn't matter if you know them or not, they will still essentially impact you on a day-to-day basis, essentially studying different psychology traits that every single person has. So with the cognitive biases, like I said, there's tons of them, and maybe I can do a video series just on the cognitive biases because these are fascinating. But what you want to understand is these can either be your crux and pull you down, or they can help lift you up out of whatever current situation you're in, taking you from where you are currently to where you want to be. That's really the main thing, point A to point B. So layout, one of the most important things in my opinion is understanding truly where you are. So many people fill their life with constant stimulus. They don't really take any time to themselves and truly think. So I'll get to that in a second, but with this contrast bias, think about where you are currently. Yes, you may see it as, okay, I'm contrasting myself with, another friend or another colleague or another classmate, whatever. That's contrast bias using against you. What you want to do is use contrast bias to your advantage. So really, in my opinion, the greatest way to do this is either read autobiographies or travel. Those are two incredible ways of doing this, or meeting with someone that is that would love to have your help in what you're doing. So this basically helps you contrast in a different way, because most things are relative, right? So you have basically subjective realities, objective realities. So objective realities are things that it doesn't matter if there's humans on this planet. It's true fundamentally. The weather is true. The way trees are true, all these different things. It doesn't matter what your opinion of is. You can't really debate it, okay? So these are things that are just fundamentally true. Then you have subjective realities, and these are things that you could think about it like when you're a kid, and maybe let's say you have like a nephew or something like this, and he has an imaginary friend. Well, that's a subjective reality. Or if you go to dinner with someone and you just say your opinion and they take it as offense. That's their subjective opinion. Maybe someone else completely agrees with you, or maybe someone else is a little bit less emotional and they have more of kind of a balanced approach. Well, each of those people are experiencing different things subjectively. And your subjective, basically unconscious thoughts typically are the things that pull you down and put you in this burnout mode. So this is one thing that's vital with this course that you understand, is basically to proactively get rid of this. This is what this video is about, is getting rid of these kind of roadblocks that you will hit. Because yes, you can watch this on 2x speed, which I recommend watching it on maybe 1.5x speed, this course, and then watching it on 2x speed. At least that's how I typically watch things, is I don't watch it on 1x speed. And then if you have something that's confusing, a certain part that you really want to dig in and watch again, then you can go back and watch on 1x speed or slow it down. And that's really the fundamental thing moving into this, is this contrast bias. So use this to your advantage, not against you. Because if you don't understand contrast bias, if you truly don't dig into this, it will be the crux of you. It'll be kind of like this like ball and chain that's weighing you down throughout the rest of your life. It doesn't matter, like I said, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what age you are watching this. It's one of these things where you truly have to understand that even if you are in literally the worst possible situation at this current time in 2021, study history. Again, read these autobiographies. I highly recommend, this isn't necessarily an autobiography, but I highly, highly recommend Viktor Frankl's book. Okay, many of his books. There's so many good ones out there. Also, Sigmund Freud has incredible books. So reading is another great one. Basically, understanding that you should really try and pick up what different people went through. So Richard Dawkins talks about this in his book, The Selfish Gene. So human beings are able to survive much longer than other organisms because we're able to simulate other people's experiences without going through them ourselves. So instead of, for example, running up against the wall, and you see, instead of like if you've ever watched like Harry Potter, that the thing, I think it's in the first movie, it's like the brick wall, everybody's running through it, and then Harry goes and he smacks up against it, and then he goes and he smacks up against it. Well, instead of that, you can simulate, let's say you're watching someone that you know closely that's maybe running into the same roadblock. Maybe they keep falling for their addiction. Maybe they're an alcoholic and they keep doing this every single time. Well, instead of joining in and going, I'm going to do this exact same thing, simulate what they're doing. So if you're able to simulate what other people are doing, essentially what you can do is learn from other people's mistakes. As Warren Buffett says, everybody learns from mistakes, but it's a heck of a lot easier to learn from other people's mistakes. And again, just as a reference point, all of these things are absolutely vital if you're going to watch the rest of this course. I'm going to refer to this introductory video so many times, and I might even do an updated version of it, but this is for kind of this version 1, if you will, of Global TA. And basically understanding that there's so many things as far as psychology goes that are going to pull you back. But those same things are really double-edged swords. So either they can hurt you or you can use them as kind of leverage to push yourself forward. So if you understand how to essentially manipulate almost your own psychology, for example, that contrast bias, instead of the worst thing, in my opinion, this is why I'm not a big fan of social media. I think things like YouTube are great, but I do not use Instagram, I do not use Facebook, I barely use Twitter. And when I use them, I mean like I'm putting something out. Like I literally don't have an Instagram account. I have like a super old Facebook account that I don't use at all. And then I don't have a personal Twitter account. The problem here is, when you're going onto these things, anyone can front anything. So let's say, the problem again here is people fall for this contrast bias. So somebody can rent a Lamborghini, somebody can rent a private jet. All these things, trust me, are very, very easy to do. Extremely, especially if you understand technical analysis. I mean, it's something where like one day's profit can rent you a Lamborghini, or can rent you maybe a week's profit is closer to flying private. But the main thing to understand here is the people that actually use these things on a day-to-day basis are not taking videos of it on Instagram, they're not taking videos of it on Facebook, they're not posing with the Lamborghini. And the problem is people that don't understand, people that haven't really grown up around extremely high net worth individuals or extremely successful people that haven't been mentored by them, they have this contrast bias where they think that's how rich people act. That is not how rich people act at all. Trust me, especially ones that have a balanced life and have a balanced approach. Maybe somebody who made $100 million in the lottery, maybe that's how they act. But I wouldn't necessarily consider them rich, because again, just like in technical analysis, if you weren't watching this all the way through, If you click off on this and you go and watch the next video in the series just because you want the quick, you have this ADHD approach where you just want the quick fix, that's a terrible way to go about this. Seriously, I implore you to really build the habits and build the framework around how you want to go about doing this. So again, it's all about really tapping into your psychology, tapping into, and again, it doesn't matter where you're from, none of these things matter. We all have these same psychological tendencies that come from our ancestors. You can kind of think about this as the whispers of past generations down to you. So this is coming from genetics, but it's also coming from, Richard Dawkins talks about this as well. He kind of coined the term a meme, which is a social gene, essentially. So it's essentially these habits that you pick up throughout your life. And no, it's not the meme with like a picture and a funny text, but it's this really important thing to understand. I highly recommend Richard Dawkins' book, The Selfish Gene. It basically tells you that you're kind of constantly at a battle with your genetic code. So you can fight against this. This is a beautiful thing, but most people just fall victim to this. So most people, it's the saddest thing to see in the world, because I truly think it's a problem with a lack of education around psychology and around kind of how, you can use these things to your advantage, or they can just completely drag you down for the rest of your life. And with this, you see, it's sad, but you see like if there's a family of alcoholics, or if there's a family that's, gambling addicts, or that's like addicted to binge eating, these different things, these get passed down from generation to generation. That quote, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, is only true if you don't consciously take it into your own hands and move forward. And that's the main thing here. If you don't want to take things into your own hands, do not watch this course. Go watch something else. Because trust me, throughout this, it'll be very, very easy to get distracted. If you have, just for reference, I don't have any notifications on anything. I purposely use technology. I have 3 phones while traveling. I'm here in Cappadocia in Turkey. And while traveling, I have 3 phones, 3 different devices for different purposes, just kind of for me. That's what I found best. I have, 2 laptops, 1 tablet. 0 of them have notifications on. 0. Because when you see a notification, it's constantly pulling your attention. You have to understand that with this, when you're watching this course, when you're really trying, like I said, trying to learn any skill, there will constantly be distractions. And you have to proactively get rid of these things, in my opinion, because your time is valuable. You should really transition from, if you have a 9-to-5 job or whatever now, transition, this is a cliche, but it is incredibly, incredibly true. If you can walk away with one thing from this video, this is what's most important. If you can transition from trading your time, the most finite research the most finite asset on earth is your time. You can never get time back. I love the concept of a time billionaire, because someone who's 80 years old has all the money in the world. I guarantee you, if you ask them on their deathbed, would they trade their money to be 20 years old again, to be 25, even 30? They would say yes. Trust me. This is part of simulating. Remember I talked about in Richard Dawkins' book, learning from other people's mistakes is much more, you can learn much quicker from simulating other people's mistakes and learning what not to do. By truly understanding, if someone has regrets, this is one of the most important things why I highly recommend. Another thing, if you need contrast bias, go to a nursing home. So maybe in the COVID times it's a little bit weird, but hopefully when things are a little bit more back to normal, or if they're open, go in and talk to them. Talk to elderly people, because they have regrets in their life, and you can take these and literally proactively get rid of that potential outcome by simulating their experience. And by speaking with them one-on-one, you kind of have this emotional attachment here. So I talk about this, in a video called Psychoneuroimmunology, how to deal with fear of missing out and FUD. So fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And basically with this is, with investing, it's very important to stay logical and rational and try and remove as much emotion as possible. But there are things that your emotions need to be attached to pull you forward. For example, if you're just a robot, if you're just logical and rational, most likely you're not going to be too ambitious. You're not going to have kind of that grit to finish this course and really apply these skills, apply these frameworks moving forward, and using this in capital markets throughout the rest of your life, this skill that you have built. But if you use your emotions to pull you, kind of like a magnet, to pull you towards where you want to go, that is very, very key. So again, there's kind of, it's all about being able to essentially delineate between logical and irrational when investing, and emotion to kind of pull you forward, not to pull you down. Because so many people, they get pulled down by this. They see this, they see the wrong contrast. You should look at people throughout history, or maybe let's say people in need in another country. That's why I highly recommend traveling. I highly recommend studying history, because the goal here is not necessarily to have this magnet being, I want to, if you're using currently the contrast bias of Instagram kind of fake fronting things, people that are like renting things, or it doesn't matter. Anyone who's taking a picture with a Lamborghini or whatever flashy things, like a flashy watch. I hate wearing watches. I used to wear watches, zero. I want to be as agile as possible now in my life, which I absolutely love. But the main thing here is this shouldn't just pull you forward because what you personally want, but you should look at it as, how can you give back? That's what I love. That's what really keeps me pulling forward. That's why I do this YouTube channel, because I love, this is the stuff that I'm interested in, and I really love helping people. Like this is what I would have wanted. This is what I don't think really any other YouTube channel talks about what I talk about on this channel, with not just, cryptocurrency, not just stocks, not just bonds, not just real estate, not just emerging market things, but really everything, combining all those together in the Invest Global channel. And I do it because I truly want to give back. Like, I don't plan to charge in anything, and that's why I'm doing this course. But again, the thing is it's like, man, if you can help one person, like, think about that. If you would currently, on the path you're on now, with not knowing how to do technical analysis, maybe, if the only person you were able to help is yourself, if the only person you were able to help, rent a Lamborghini, blah, blah, buy a fancy watch, on your deathbed, ask yourself, would you truly be happy? Would you truly felt like you left an impact on the world? And I'm not going to answer that for you. If the answer is yes, go right ahead. But if you truly think about this, like genuinely contemplate this fact, I think one of the most important things is, again, simulating, like contemplating death. Because this is inevitable. You will not live forever. At a certain point in time, you will be 80 years old, and you will look back and you will have regrets. And the question is, will you have much more regrets or much less regrets? Ideally, you have zero regrets, okay? So, again, as I was talking about, these are all things I think it's important to take into account. Again, maybe I'll do a kind of second video more on structured paradigms and frameworks. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see that. But really the next video, like I said, on technical analysis will be on just looking at the charts. But this video, in my opinion, is extremely important if you're going to follow along with this series, because you will fall behind if you are not staying up to date with these things. Trust me, if you hit a roadblock, it's important to understand that it's no really outward force. There's this issue where people kind of have this this kind of victim mentality where they think, oh, if this isn't working for me, if I run into one roadblock, if I have one problem here, if I don't understand one thing, I'm going to quit, this isn't for me, blah, 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 blah. The most important thing here is to have I think, a scientific method approach. So really testing a thesis against an antithesis to form a synthesis. So in trading, this is one of the most important things. In really the first three to four modules, essentially, it'll be walking you through how to actually build the skills in the charts. Then the second half is more focused on helping you build the strategy from those skills. Because if you just copy exactly my strategy or someone else's strategy, or you copy someone else's trades, you're not actually building the foundation. So you're not building the house that you need to move forward with technical analysis. Really all you're doing is just copying someone else's and like kind of renting it for a day, just like renting a Lamborghini for a day or renting a watch, whatever. The most important thing is, again, building these skills so you can use it through the rest of your life. That way it doesn't matter, again, trading this, I was talking about trading time for money, okay? So most people trade this time for money, and it's a horrible thing because time is a finite asset, money is not. There's abundance of money in the world, trust me on that. Especially if you understand capital markets further and the macroeconomy, you'll understand that you want to switch from trading money for time. So for example, if currently you spend, if you don't enjoy getting your groceries, if you don't enjoy, let's say, I don't know, if you don't enjoy driving, if you don't enjoy cleaning, all these different things, you should trade your money for time. So it is extremely easy, especially if you don't live in these ridiculously overvalued Western countries. If you live in a place like here, Turkey is beautiful, absolutely incredible, the real estate opportunities and the raw land. Here, or really in most places in the, you could say Eastern Europe, and in a lot of places in Southeastern Asia, to outsource these things so you don't have to trade your time just to get this thing that is a repeatable task. It's so easy to trade your money for time in this situation. So that's one of those things I highly recommend if you're looking to really focus down on something like this. If you're truly looking to focus down on technical analysis, start trading money for time instead of time for money, okay? So if there's a task that you do every single week that takes 2 hours, and this is unnecessary, this is a repeatable task that doesn't take your kind of cognitive abilities, like getting groceries, like driving, like, again, cleaning's a huge one, or like meal prep, all these different things, hire someone to do it. Test it out. Have this scientific approach. Say, hey, I'm going to test this out for a week, or I'm going to test this out for a month. At the end of the month, I'm going to collect the results, and I'm going to go, okay, what is the synthesis? Should I move forward? Because the synthesis is the new thesis. This is an ongoing cycle. Just like with trading. So let's say with trading you have a thesis. Your thesis is using the Bollinger Bands, the MACD, and volume. And with this, maybe you check the 4-hour time frame and the 30-minute time frame. That's your framework. That's your thesis. Now, the antithesis is when this doesn't work. So you should trade this, first of all, always paper trading these patterns. We'll talk about this more in the course. But paper trading is essentially writing down instead of injecting your capital. Now, if you want to inject your capital, go right ahead. Use a proper stop loss, obviously. We'll talk about that again in the next one, but this is just for an example. So that's your thesis. You're going to test it against the antithesis. And then the synthesis will be the combination of these two things. Not because you're emotionally attached to your thesis. You should never do this. You should have a logical approach with your thesis. Look for disconfirming evidence. Look for places where this didn't work, but also look for places where it did. And kind of weigh the pros and cons. Find the synthesis, and then the synthesis should be the new thesis. So it's an ongoing cycle, so you're constantly improving. You don't want to fall behind. You want to every day, step by step, get ahead, not necessarily in fast spurts. So that's pretty much it for this frameworks and paradigm video. Again, all these things are very important. Maybe if you're interested in one individual aspect, tons of other things I could talk about here, but I'm trying to keep it relatively short. Again, in the next video, if you go and click that, we'll have a playlist for this whole series, so you can follow along there. The point of me building this course is I want to make it so you can watch this in 2021, you can watch it in 2023, you can watch it in 2025, you can watch it in 2030. These things I'm going to talk about are really going to try and be as kind of evergreen as possible, because these are skills that have worked throughout all of history with capital markets and charts. Technical analysis dates back a very long time. We're going to talk about things like Fibonacci extensions and much more advanced things. So that's pretty much it for this week 1 in the Global TA course. If you enjoyed it, that's all I ask for this series. Again, I'm putting this out completely for free. Most people charge thousands of dollars for something like this, and they are. I think it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, if you have results with those things, great. But I think you can really learn from a lot of free information first. And maybe if you're not consistent, if you're not kind of, if that magnet isn't kind of pulling you, maybe it's important for you to pay for something so you have that kind of upfront cost that you feel accountable for. So that's one thing where I kind of understand when people do paid courses, because it is true, when someone pays for something, they're a lot more accountable than if someone just gets something out for free. So that's pretty much it for today's video. Again, if you enjoyed it, like the video. That's all I ask in the series. Just if you enjoy the course, if you've watched these things maybe multiple times, like it. I highly recommend watching through these again at different speeds so you can kind of pick up different things. Maybe watching it at 2x speed so you understand the basic frameworks, and then moving on to 1.5x speed to take notes on some things when we move into technical analysis. Again, if you're interested in more things as far as frameworks and paradigms, just let me know in the comments, because I can make kind of an updated version of this one. But this is really just the introduction to the series. I wanted to welcome you to Global TA. Hope everyone is having a great day. As always, invest global, and until next time.